Hey, so I'm going to head off to the co-working space now, get some more work done. So in regards to what's useful to you guys, so I'm using Godot at the moment, and I thought it'd be useful to talk about like my first experience of contributing to Godot and a bug and like one of the challenges, because like the reason I like Godot is it's a small enough game engine that I feel I can hack it, right? Because especially I remember early PS4 era, there was a lot of Unity games that just couldn't ship because Unity had bugs and the developers couldn't fix the bugs and they weren't big enough to really get Unity off their ass. So Godot is really appealing to me for that. And that's one of the things. But one of the problems I found is I've actually been spending more time in the engine code than I want to. I think that's more my failing than anything because I have the ability to go into the engine code. I have the knowledge to go into the engine code. And so rather than working around or accepting the limitation, I often do that. But I wanted to talk about the first time that I had a bug that was obviously a bug that I knew I could fix and the experience of that and how I made mistakes there. So the bug in question is still existing because the PR hasn't been merged. Other smaller PRs of mine have been merged. But the bug is in Godot, if you do array box intersection, so that's array access aligned box intersection, despite what the docs say and how the other functions like that behave, it doesn't return the intersection point. It returns the relative intersection value, the t value, because of how the math works and stuff. Anyway, it was a really obvious typo. It's been in the engine for more than 12 years. These things happen. Generally, the game engine uses ray segment code. I always prefer ray box code where possible because the math is just better and is faster, frankly. So I was like, okay, I'll use that. And then I had bugs and I was like, okay, there's a bug here. Look at it. Check the docs. This is obviously a bug. Let me fix it. I can do my first Godot fix. It was last year, November-ish, I want to say. And the problem is I was like somewhat sick and ill at the time. I was having a hard time at work. And I get the fix together and I'm just like, oh, it's one night fix, put in PR. And I'm like, hey, I could submit this thing. And there's some people like open source projects are always going to be tricky to contribute to, and there's always going to be a lot of things there. Immediately, I tripped up some style check code that I should have just checked. Also, by the way, the scones build system for Godot is wonderfully beautiful and is really nice and it just works. Top notch, 10 out of 10. And the build notes on getting Godot building, 10 out of 10, really easy. If you need to build Godot, just do it, not a problem. And you can run the style code. It just wasn't because I didn't have Clang format installed and it was a pain. Anyway, because Clang format on Windows can sometimes be a pain to set up. So I got what we call bike shedded, where there's positive bike shedding, there's negative bike shedding, but the term bike shedding is often referred to, you're trying to build a house and everyone's just quibbling about the bike shed because the bike shed's easy, the house is difficult. So there are some contributors in the Godot community who do a lot of gardening, they do a lot of basic style checks and they're very active on PRs. It's not negative, but when you're like a bit short, you know, you're like, oh, I'm just helping out or whatever, and so people are like, oh, why is the variable name called this? And it's like, well, I didn't rename the variable. That's the original variable name. I just fixed the math thing. And it's like, well, why doesn't it do like this? And you've got to explain to people, well, this is how intersection code works. And I came across a little bit condescending because they were like, oh, but what about this edge case and this edge case? I'm like, this is core collision code or core intersection test code. You don't want to bog it down with these edge case stuff and whatnot. Anyway, it handled badly. It was back and forth. It was very frustrating. Eventually, I table flipped and I was just like, I'm not doing this. And I just walked away from the PR. I was really annoyed by the whole experience. But thankfully, I've got enough sort of game dev friends around me to sort of go. And I went to chat with some of my friends. I was like, hey, here's this PR. Am I being an asshole? Turns out, a little bit. A little bit I was being an asshole. It's been a little bit too short with people, a little bit too condescending. I was just not being a good community member, which not great. So I fixed that. I tried to just attitude adjust a little bit. The PR's still ongoing. There's little bits there, but honestly, I'm not worried. It's patched in it works on my engine now. Don't care. And it doesn't sound like the bug's hitting many people, but it's annoying because I think the reason I got really frustrated with it is because that particular bug wasted a lot of my time. And I know that if someone who was less confident in engine code or collision code or math code or whatever could just be like, why the hell is my intersection code not working? This should work. Da, da, da. And it returns a mostly correct kind of value because it's a ratio. It returns the ratio of thing. It's just an annoying little bug. Anyway, since then I have contributed other small bits to the Godot engine, very tiny bits, and I feel like I have a better relationship with how to do contributions. I still say contributing to an open source engine is just work. So if you are going to make a contribution, put your kindness hat on. Everyone's very busy. You're going to get some people who bike shed. They have positive intentions mostly. Not always, but mostly. 90% of the time. Make sure you do the style guide and all the bits and bobs. That was actually a bit annoying. Later, for one of the things, because in Git you can basically say this is a draft pull request versus this is an actual pull request. And I had uploaded a draft pull request to basically just get all the CI stuff to do its things, code checking, style checking, or whatever, because I knew it was going to trip up on something. And before I could even wait for the run to finish and for me to address sort of the issues, one of the people came on and was like, hey, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, it's a draft PR, guys. I'm still working on it. So that was a little bit annoying. But Godot. I'm glad about the engine choice. I'm struggling a bit with some VR stuff at the moment, performance-wise. It may actually kill the current project, but what else? Anyway, I need to get going. I'm running late. I need to be slinging code, so to speak. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that experience because I think, especially if you're more, if you've got experience with game engines, or if you're used to maintaining your own game engine or whatever, and you're going to use Godot, you're going to hit a situation where you want to build the engine and hopefully contribute back to the community. And when you do contribute back to the community, knowing programmers, knowing the little assholes we can be, I think 9 times out of 10 the problem is going to be your attitude, not your code, when you're contributing. At least it was for me. So yeah, I wanted to share that little lesson, that little experience of my first contribution to Godot and using it. But yeah, I'm trying to, as much as possible, not do engine stuff and just try and get the bloody game going. But I'm in a weird place with compute shaders, and I keep on hitting edge cases with the fact that we don't have certain binding structures and stuff that I need. So I'm working around that. But anyway, onto code. But yeah, hope this helps someone.